Hello.
Ooh, that shut everyone up really quick, didn't it? Do we need to lean into these?
I think we do.
Oh, how awesome.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to Parallels.
2023.
Yes. We'd just like to start by introducing Warrant Juryman Daniel Ross to do a quick welcome to country.
Hello everyone. My name is Daniel Ross, and I'm going to be a little bit personal with you all tonight. There's one thing that I absolutely despise, and it's a lectern. They just seem a little too colonial. I don't know. But deeper than that, how do I invite people into my home, my ancestors' home, with a barrier in front of me? That's the real reason I don't like a lectern. Although they do mean that they don't have to have a skinny filter for me these days, which is nice as well. I want to share my ancestors' story with you, my story. Now, at the beginning, they told us that there's a 5-minute warning, an 8-minute warning, and by 10 minutes, I might get tackled, so we'll see how many times I can stay on stage. But Bunjil is our creator, the wedge-tailed eagle. Bunjil created everything we see, from the stars in the sky to the roots of the trees in the ground. Bunjil taught us how to listen, how to care. But it's 2023. What does it mean from things that happened at the inception, the beginning of time? How do we relate that to today? We've got a season called Porneet, and it closely aligns with spring. We've got 4 seasons, we've got 6 seasons, not 4. And this year I was nervous, I'm not going to lie, you see. The wattle bloomed a month early. And when the wattle blooms, we pause and we check in on our old people. Last year when the wattle bloomed, we lost Uncle Jack, Uncle Archie. This year I had to visit my own mum in ICU when the wattle bloomed. But there's a flip side, you see. And the thing that I like about the flip side is it almost represents this room. We see yam daisies coming to flower, new tadpoles in ponds, fresh, exciting new beginnings everywhere we look. But I guess the other side to that is it also teaches us to reflect on the old fellas that have paved the way for what we appreciate today. They're almost like libraries that are living. We were forced 235 years ago, though. Everything we knew would change. Is it for better? I'm undecided, but we're here. The MCG just up the road was once a place of song, dance, ceremony, decimated for a sporting field. The Birrarung, the Yarra River, runs through country like the blood of our veins, offering life, food, resources, shelter. We're forced off what was home to places like Bollambol and Billabong, and then they established Coranderrk, the mission. Coranderrk's known as Hillsville today too, by the way. But we're one of the most profitable Aboriginal missions in the country. And we weren't allowed to get a paycheck until we learned to read and write English. So for everyone in the room that can speak a language other than English, I implore you to teach your young, those future generations, because losing language is an absolute travesty to the fabric and identity of who we all are. Uncle Billabong was our Nurrungetta at the time, our head man. He walked from Coranderrk to what we now know as Spring Street. He negotiated our first treaty, 12 axes, a few bags of rice, and a couple of blankets. But at that signing were 2 little fellas, Uncle Simon Wonga and Uncle William Barak. And both advocated tirelessly for the betterment of Aboriginal people and for Victorians as a whole. You see, they knew that there was invaluable knowledge to be shared to bring everyone together. My great-grandmother had the tribal name Bullim. It means white butterfly. But because Nan was fair-skinned, but full-blood by the old term, she wasn't allowed to play in the school grounds with coloured kids, nor was she allowed to play with the Anglo kids either. She was stuck on her own in the middle. But white butterfly, there was heaps of them this year. Gentle, caring, nurturing. The old fellas had a way of knowing, you see. I hope I get old one day. I turned 21 last week, I promise. Nan was instrumental in opening the first health service for Aboriginal people right here in Victoria. Then in 1967, we saw this thing called a referendum. I'm not mentioning the one in a couple of days. I'll leave that up to you. But the one in 1967, you see, we voted on Aboriginal people being human, because right up until 1967, we were considered flora and fauna, so we could be kept as pets. Challenging conversation for something that's just over 50 years ago. I'm happy that I'm recognised as human now and a citizen in a country that we've looked after for millennia. Then there's my story. Not long after the referendum, I started school. You see, I told you I'm 21. Except my first day of school wasn't that great. It reminds me of my grandmother's experience in school. I was told I wasn't Aboriginal, you see, because I was white. And I went home broken, because my first day of school, I wanted to share those stories of Nam Nam filling up, Wah bringing us fire and being our protector, Bunjil creating everything that we see. But I went home broken. I didn't want to go back to school because I was questioning, had my family lied to me? Who was I? And my grandfather, a very wise man, he sat me down and he explained to me the reason I was fair-skinned and my cousins were still darker than I had something to do with the times we were born, and apparently they were born at night time and I got born in the day. And that laughter heals and brings people together. And that's a true story too, by the way. Then as I hit my teenage years, he tapped me on the shoulder again and he wanted to have a chat. And I went, okay, this is good. What have I done wrong now? It's awkward talking about courting with your grandfather. I'm not going to lie, it's really awkward. But he encouraged me not to court other Indigenous boys and girls, you see, because we didn't know where our family members were put when we were sent to Coranderrk. We were separated again and sent to places like Cumragunja, Lake Tyers in Gippsland, and as far north as the Mulga Mission in New South Wales. But we were fortunate enough that we were followed around like subjects of the Crown, you see. And there was little diaries kept, little journals, and we were able to come together and place back where we were put, and family has been able to come back together at Wurundjeri, and we know that we were made up of 3 family groups, and our stories were documented. But that's the part that raises a bigger question, you see. We were fortunate. First Nations throughout Australia were denied that right. First Nations throughout the globe during colonisation have lost their stories and been dispossessed. But reflecting on Bunjil's law, it's not about dwelling on those things of the past. We need to acknowledge them so we don't repeat them, but embrace listening to each other, caring for one another, and caring for country. And then we understand that country cares for us, and we can move forward collectively as one. I'd like to welcome you all to my ancestors' home, my home. Woman Jika Wurundjeri Bullock, Yemen Gundibik. In the Woiwurrung language, I just said welcome to the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. Our traditional lands go west to the Werribee River, north to the Great Divide, east to Mount Borbor, and south to Mordialloc Creek. I still think I've got about 3 minutes left, so we can keep going. No, I'm just joking. Nun Godjin, thank you.
Well, thanks, Daniel. That was great.
Thank you.
So yeah, welcome to Parallels. My name is Louie.
I'm Mads.
We're co-directing Freeplay for the next couple of years, so strap in. Yeah, we started this year with we're pretty happy with what we've got for you tonight. So very happy. But yeah, do you want to talk about like sort of what we're going to do tonight?
So tonight we have 9 speakers for you for this year's Parallels. We are covering all sorts of ground from implementing saxophones in games through to haunted antiques. We have a wonderful range of speakers here from all across Australia. And I guess, do we have anything else to add at this point?
Oh, no, we'll leave it as a surprise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other things. Exciting, surprising things.
Yes. Yes, we have sort of a few announcements and thanks and everything scattered through tonight. So we'll start trying to save some time early. And I'd love to introduce from ACMI, Kerry Anstey, to say a few words.
Hi. Thank you all for being here. It's so wonderful to see such a full house. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and waterways of Greater Melbourne, the people of the Kulin Nation, and recognise that ACMI is located on the lands of the Wurundjeri people. I also wish to pay my respects and our respects to Aboriginal elders, both past and present, and warmly acknowledge any elders who have joined us here today. We're also joined by Claire Makita, Board Chair of Freeplay Independent Games Festival, Louie and Mads. Thank you so much for being co-directors. We love co-directors. What a great thing to see. Fran Curlin, Senior Manager of Digital Games and Fashion at Creative Victoria, Carolyn Pitcher, CEO of Vic Screen, and ACMI's Director and CEO, Seb Chan. It's so great to have you all here with us. Melbourne International Games Week is such an exciting time for ACMI to celebrate the innovation of our local and international games sector. As Australia's National Museum of Screen Culture, we recognise the value of video games not only as an art form, but entertainment and education, and a critical part of what we do in our time and in our play and in the way we learn and grow as a culture. Which is why we're delighted to be welcoming Freeplay Independent Games Festival back to ACMI for this one-night-only showcase of some of the most experimental, personal and culturally significant work being made in the gaming world, and I mean the world. Melbourne, you're such an interesting city for video games, and it's so clear from how you show up for all of these events and the games you publish and the way you play. This year, in addition to co-presenting Freeplay, ACMI is the central programming hub during Games Week with 11 big events, including performances, talks, film screenings, education programs, and showcase playable games. You might have seen them scattered throughout the museum. They're really beautiful and fun. And in addition, this is all made possible through Victoria Government support of Melbourne International Games Week. And really, they've made such an action-packed program this season, as you'll probably see from Big Games Night Out on Fed Square. And I want to acknowledge that the Creative Victoria team who've done such a wonderful job of curating the week, and thank all of the ACMI team who are so passionate about games, the ACMI X community who bring games to life every day in our museum. And we're just really happy and thankful to be part of such a vibrant and growing community. So thanks for bringing your talent, your ideas, and all the possibilities that come with us to tonight. Thank you. Enjoy.
So yeah, our first speaker, thanks Kerry. So our first speaker tonight is a fellow WA person. Yeah, here we are. Hey, look at us. Jacob Janerka, would you like to attend?
Hello, my name is Jacob Janerka. Many of you know me as the creator of the point-and-click adventure game Paradigm. Maybe some of you saw my Seinfeld adventure game pitch. Some of you might know my crab phone, and some of you potentially know me from my viral comic about my nipple chafe that I got really bad from running, and then I cut holes in my shirt for relief. Then I forgot I was wearing said shirt, and then I showed my bare nipples to the delivery man. However, I believe most of you know me best as fastest game developer in the world. I like to be specific though, I'm actually the fastest in athletic ability, not actual game development speed. However, I'd like to make an important but sad announcement. I was unfortunately bested in a 100-meter dash by another game developer. That developer being Wilhelm from Landfall Games. He is the fastest. I'm now merely the second fastest game dev in the world. However, I'd like to note that I ate a whole supermarket roast chicken before the race, so I was not at my full potential. Oh, wait. Sorry. So what I'd like to talk to you about is something much more important, and that is how George Michael, 80s pop sensation, saved our game, The Dungeon Experience. Subtitle, Finding Sincere Meaning in Stupid Ideas That Make Me Laugh. But it was actually his song, Careless Whispers, that saved The Dungeon Experience. But it was specifically the saxophone melody that inspired me. So, for those who are not familiar with my game, I'll let our lead character, the Dungeon Master, tell you.
Dungeon Master Creations. The Dungeon Experience is an immersive first-person fantasy guided tour. Run by me, a low-level RPG monster, turned entrepreneur, and all-around handsome crab. Wow, look at that beautiful symmetry. Those clippy, clappy claws.
So our team making this is called the Bone Assembly. We're the finest collection of bones in the games industry. That team is made up of me, Simon Boxer, John Murphy, Asher Waterman, and Dmitry Golovko. So let's get back to how George Michael saved the Dungeon Experience. It all began with a writing block I had for making an important sequence. I was incredibly stressed at the time. Everything that I wrote down seemed like unfunny garbage. I thought, will I be known as Nipple Shirt Guy forever? So what was my writing problem? I had to give large amounts of exposition to the player and create a big character moment for the crab. While a game is narrative focused, you want to avoid giving huge info dumps to the player, unless you can do it in a creative, and in our case, a funny way. I just couldn't figure it out. So I went back to my game writing system, which I do to avoid getting stuck and to avoid crying. So what system is that? It's my word vomit system. Word vomit is just chaotic brainstorming where I write hundreds of words or phrases on an A3 piece of paper that are vaguely related to my problem and wait till something makes me laugh out loud. So what made me laugh out loud? Crab playing saxophone. It was my destiny. Was I just delirious? Is this a good idea? Did I just get food poisoning from the whole supermarket roast chicken I ate earlier? So I tested my idea on Twitter, X. The dopamine I got from the likes seemed to tell me that I was on the right track. While I don't publicly test all my ideas, I just really wanted to draw that crab wailing on that sax. So how do I weave the silly idea back into the story and make it a sincere moment and not some lol random joke? I'm very wary of this. This is something that I'm very aware of, but I love the challenge of turning a silly idea into something that contributes strongly to characterization or plot. I work backwards from the initial laugh and grind away till I get it. So, what did I end up with? To avoid spoilers, I won't tell you its original execution. However, luckily enough, I repurposed the saxophone idea for the demo. I won't show you the crab playing sax just yet, but how the idea is introduced to the player.
Adventurer! Oh, 1 second. Adventurer, thank you for donating your time to play our demo. In return, I'd like to donate you a good time. Or my blood. You could have my blood as well. Or both. I don't know. It's up to you. Okay? I just feel like I owe you for taking the time to play this. Camera 2? Now, it's my promise to you that you'll love the demo. If I'm wrong, I will provide you one private saxophone performance. See this artist rendering of what you'll get to experience. I'm quite good.
So what am I trying to do? I'm using the crab offering his private saxophone performance to create a sense of desperation and endearment, the cornerstone of his character. He's trying his hardest to sell you something that he wants you to like, desperately reaching for things that he can do to convince you. We introduced the sax idea to the demo for another crucial reason. Our vertical slice we used was way too long for conventions. However, by cutting it shorter, the ending was anticlimactic and unsatisfying as a whole. However, all our issues were solved once again with a cure-all to all my problems: crab playing saxophone. George Michael saves us once again, my savior. So now I'll show you how we split the demo in half to facilitate the shorter demo for the sax performance.
Congratulations, adventurer. You have reached the demo's halfway point. Now, I give you two options. One, quit the demo now, saving your body in anticipation of the full game. I call it full game edging. Two, continue playing the demo another 20 minutes or so.
Thank you. That was from our amazing voice actor, Garrett Swanson. So this way, if you chose to keep playing or opt in for the full game edging, the player would have the climactic sax ending no matter what, making for a memorable demo. So before I show you all the sax performance as a thank you for listening to my talk, I'd like to show you that the sax room where the performance takes place is a direct homage to the Callous Whispers music video. So now, without further ado, I will now show you all the saxophone performance.
Now let us begin the private saxophone performance. Now it's your turn, adventurer. I know it may be a little intimidating to follow up my performance, but you just have to believe in yourself. Can you do that for me?
The initial idea nugget of the crab playing saxophone inspired us to make the world's first-person interactive saxophone. Please don't prove me wrong on that. So to end this talk, I will now perform to you live using a saxophone.
Now, let's hear your sax
Can we get some volume?
Yeah, wail on that thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
supple red lips in the full game. The Dungeon Experience.
Please wish us our game. Thank you. Should I leave this here, or would people like to sax themselves, maybe? Every talk ends with a saxophone performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob, for that beautiful saxophone showcase. And I guess now the threat of saxophone looms over us for the rest of the night. So next up, we have Iris from right here in Melbourne. And Iris will have, I think, a slightly more soothing talk about forests for us.
Hey everyone. My talk's going to be very different than that. Yeah, I hope that's going to be okay. Yeah, I'm going to talk about something different. I'm not going to pitch a game or something. I'm going to talk more about something, a common thread that goes through all my work that I've done so far. And that is that it happened to be that all my games have been set in forests. And I don't really know quite why that happened, but it's just what happened to be, and I seem to like them, and so I think I'm going to talk about them. Yeah, where I grew up in Germany, and forests look like that. They're coniferous forests, and they're sort of dark with light shining through it sometimes, and making a very mysterious atmosphere. I used to walk there and pick animal bones. I think they also represent some kind of mystery that I felt in those forests. Yeah, there's also deciduous trees in these forests. I think they're quite nice when the light shines through the trees and give a completely different kind of atmosphere. Same with when there's different seasons and it looks completely different again. Still mysterious to me. Very different atmosphere depending on what kind of season there is. Yeah, I came to Australia and forests here look very, very different. There are eucalyptus trees and fern trees, and still mysterious, but very, very different. And I think I'm still enchanted by them. They're different depending on whether it's very dry or wet. Still trying to figure them out, basically, but they enchant me a lot. So when I started game developing, I first made a game called DAP. It was like a pixel art, top-down game, set in a forest. Made it together with my husband, Paul. And this game is essentially about going deeper and darker into a forest. You have a very odd relationship with the forest there, because you're essentially trying to save the forest, but you're also running away from it in a way. So this forest holds a lot of secrets, some of them very dark, but some of them also very beautiful. So when I finished making this game, I needed a break from screens. And I started traditional painting. And I happened to paint forests again. I think I really like painting forests because they fill up the whole screen. No matter which angle you look at them, you're always completely surrounded by them. So if in doubt on what to paint on your picture, it's going to be leaves. And you can kind of paint them in a very abstract way and fill your painting if you don't know what else goes there. I think I really like finding some sort of something unique in a forest, something like a weird shape or something, or like a color combination, something that you kind of don't find anywhere else. Just trying to make it unique, just trying to question what is special about that specific forest. Yeah, when I came back to game dev, I think I was trying to look for that same uniqueness, trying to figure out what's special about the forest that I'm making. In this case, I was kind of trying to replicate the painting, and I think I was trying to recreate this kind of noise that I find very calming. I was trying a lot of different styles of forests, trying to make them unique in some kind of way. I'm not sure how. Forests can look extremely different to one another. Last year I had the opportunity to work in a team on this game. It's called Kilroy. And I was able to also make a forest pretty much, but make it very differently, make it very stylized, explored from a completely different angle. And I was also trying the complete opposite. I was trying to make a forest with a lot of really super high realistic assets in Unreal Engine. That completely broke my project. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that again. All that time I kept painting, and I've painted a lot of different creatures in paintings, just trying to think about what might live in these forests. They're never very clear, they're just sort of like a hint of them. So just trying to think about, what could be there. So in these videos, I'm going to show a little bit about a forest environment I have at the moment. I've called it Moss Island for now. I guess it's an island with a lot of moss in it. And it is playable, it's an environment. You can walk around in it, you can feel the surroundings and climb trees. But it's not quite a game yet, but it's something I'm working on. It is something that I made it ever-changing. You can never find the quite exact same moment the same again, because it has a day-night cycle. So I really like the way that something might never look the same way again if you find the light shining through the leaves through a specific way or something like that. I'm a tech artist, so I like really lighting and particles and that kind of thing. I really like the way that it makes you feel like you're in it, it completely surrounds it, you're not just on it. And it's a game I keep working on until it's finished. I really like the idea of encasing the mystery in it. And thank you for my talk. Thank you for having me. This is the first time that I've ever shown my paintings in public, so that was quite special for me. Thank you so much.
Cool. And up third, we have another local developer, Ben Koder, better known as Koder, talking a bit about his recent project, Beyond the Lens.
Hi. My name's Ben Koder. Most people probably just know me by Koder. And as Mad said, I'm here to talk about a game I've been working on for the past year called Beyond the Lens. But first, I'll introduce myself a little bit for people who don't know me. This is my little digital avatar you've seen floating around on cyberspace, Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever social media platform they come up with next. This is probably what I'm going to use. And I started as a visual artist, moved on to be a programmer, and now I just make really weird games. So, as an example, this is called Gooplings. It is a hand-tracking, block-stacking game with a video that isn't playing right now. made by Jin Fang and me. And then this is another game I made called Massage Maestro with Hazel Sun. And you use a MIDI keyboard to massage a patient. We're actually showing that at PAX if you want to have it go. And I make a bunch of other things, so fractal art, Blender renders, Xbox Connect body tracking stuff, and a bunch of other weird nonsense. I love just exploring new technologies. But I'm here to talk about one implementation of technology in Beyond the Lens. So a little bit about the game. It's an experimental, explorational photography game where you're exploring a sort of surreal, glitchy, low poly, a lot of Z fighting environment with nothing but your vintage Polaroid camera. Much like a camera, you can look through the viewfinder, frame your shot, take a photo. And also much like a Polaroid camera, it takes a few seconds for your photos to develop, but that's because it's currently being processed by a spicy technology known as artificial intelligence to turn your capture of this weird little game world into a photorealistic image. Now, the technology I'm specifically using is called NVIDIA Gorgan. The technical term is, I'm sorry, semantic image synthesis with spatially adaptive normalization. But it's built by NVIDIA, which was trained on either 13,000 or 1 million photographs, depending on what source you're looking at. And they took this tool and they made a web interface for it where you could basically use very simple brushes and click convert, and it basically turns it into a beautiful vista. And you can download that image and sort of do whatever you want with it. And then me and a few of my computer science buddies had a peek behind the curtains and looked at their dev code and found a way that we could interface it directly into Unity so that the captures you take of the game world can be sent up to that same AWS machine learning server that NVIDIA is probably spending a lot of money on, and then returning those images completely free of charge on my end, as they, as they say, be gay, do crime. Okay, and so the game was a bit of a hit, but I did ask permission from the lead researcher of NVIDIA just to make sure they wouldn't be sending lawyers at my doorstep. I'm still a student, so I couldn't afford that. But the permission was a little ominous. But it was permission nonetheless. So I kind of went off, I kept working on it, and I built up the confidence to actually submit it to the ACMI X Work in Progress Night, which is an incredible venue where game developers and also like all creative practitioners can sort of show their work to an audience even when it's like still very much in progress. And I thought, what a better place to show my glitchy, weird AI game. But then I found a bunch of really big projects being shown there, made by huge teams with big budgets and long time frames. And this is a game I made in about 3 weeks with a few friends, and it was still really, really buggy. But regardless, with a lot of encouragement from Jeannie and the ACMI team, thank you very much, I did end up showcasing my game there last year. But yeah, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So I was announced to showcase, but before the actual showcase, a whole bunch of revelations sort of happened in this generative AI space. Tons of new tools were coming out, and with those tools came tons of controversy. And those controversies were very well known in this space. Artists were, making their stance very well known, how these technologies was scraping their artworks in order to build their databases, in order to train their AIs to make very pretty images. And I was using a game that utilizes very similar technology, and I was just about to showcase it to some of the most talented artists in this industry. I was terrified. I love games, I love art, I really wanted to be a part of this community, and yeah, I was worried they'd be coming at me with pitchforks. So I was thinking, well, it's a photography game that I'm showing, and I should probably give them some sort of gift, some sort of peace offering, as a thank you for trying my weird, strange little AI game that's kind of might be threatening their jobs, but not really. It's like photography, but anyway. And I thought, what a better gift to give than an actual Polaroid photo of that has been generated from the game that you take when playing the game. It's like a unique little souvenir that you could keep from your unique experience playing the game. And it was a hit. I bought a Instax little portable printer thing with a bunch of hacked together Python code. I managed to get it to work. And yeah, you could just click print, and the photo that you took in the game could become a physical artifact for you to keep forever. And it also doubled as a really handy business card. So it was an amazing experience, and people were sharing the photos that they had taken online. So some of you are in here. Yeah, and that was so heartwarming, and I felt really embraced and accepted, and I really wanted to show my games more because it was just awesome. So I kept working on the back end, kept perfecting it, making it a little more stable, and I even ended up getting to showcase my game at Sabbatical Gallery, which is an amazing space full of really creative people. Thank you, Sabbatical. But 5 days before the showcase, the AI went completely offline. The server could not be reached, and therefore the game could not be played. I, again, terrified. The only thing I could do was reach out to that same NVIDIA developer and say, hey, like, could you just reboot the server or something? And they were like, okay, sure. And they brought it back online, and it was great. Yeah, it was an absolute hit, and I had an amazing time, and I was just thrilled watching people playing the game and creating cool stuff and discovering new ways to trick the AI into making really cool photos. And then next was Powerhouse in Sydney. Powerhouse Ultima, they reached out to me to show my game, but this was part of their photography night, not their games night. So I was really excited to show the game to photographers and see how would they feel about this technology now encroaching into their career fields. And yeah, I was really, really looking forward to that. Like clockwork, the server went offline. And the whole website went offline. And the entire existence of this technology ever being available went offline. And again, I messaged the developer, and they were like, sorry, no can do, it's gone forever. And yeah, basically I cobbled things together. I found the only existing footage of the game being played from a Twitch live streamer, Fred McKay, thank you for letting me use your footage. And then I was also able to talk about my experience in front of a panel, and now I get to talk to you as well. And it's all I'm finding it all very therapeutic, so thank you for listening. So what's next? So basically, I'm trying to understand what I just made, trying to understand the technology, and trying to navigate the machine learning's labyrinthine libraries and abstract algorithms, and trying to hack and reappropriate more morally bankrupt multi-billion-dollar technology so that art and artists can make new and weird and wonderful games. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Koder. Now, before I get to some thanks, I'd just like to introduce one of our board members, Joel. If I'd come up for a quick statement.
Thank you so much, Louie. Hi everyone, my name's Joel Davison. I'm a Gadigal and Dunghutti fellow who is privileged to be living here in Naarm and lucky enough to be part of the Freeplay board. Thank you so much to Daniel for your heartfelt welcome this evening. Us mob look pretty flash at 21, huh? Definitely 21 still. I'm up here just to say that Freeplay is proud to express our support for the yes vote in the upcoming referendum. Yes, we did choose to go there this evening. We just want to say that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have the oldest continuing culture in the world. Freeplay supports and celebrates the dignity, resilience, and strength of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, their continuing connection to country, and their right to self-determination. For too long, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have been ignored, denied a say in decisions, policies, and programs that impact their lives. This is why we, as a board, can do nothing less than support a yes vote. While we support the voice, we respect the differences of opinion within Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. Freeplay will always support respectful listening and discussion, even when there's disagreement. And we encourage everyone to do the same as you make your own decisions this month. We offer our solidarity to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people in this time. To all the other mob in the room, I see you and I feel you in ways that there aren't enough words to describe this evening. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Thanks, Joel. Actually, as a teacher as well, I also want to say that we definitely support the teaching strikes across all of Melbourne and Australia, and probably the world, honestly. We deserve a lot better. But anyway, onwards and upwards. So I had... Yes, join the unions. Join all your unions. Support unions. So yeah, I'd love to give some thanks. Thanks first to everyone here. Thanks. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for supporting us. We really appreciate it every time. It's just amazing. It's great to be given an event to run and know that you don't have to do any PR for it. It's one thing off the list. I want to thank Mads, my co-director. They've been amazing, and thanks for letting me make some arcade cabinets. That was definitely not necessary, but I'm glad that everyone let me do it. Thanks to the board as well, all the amazing board members who saw potential in us and potential in this event with the cabinets, with all the budget going so high, and I'm sorry for that. But it was great, and they're really good. Go see them, they're outside. I want to thank ACMI, our presenting partners. It's amazing to be back here after so long, and we look forward to working with ACMI again and upcoming and doing lots of stuff, and they're just wonderful people. I want to thank Vic Screen for being great supporters and just being good listeners and helping us out. They're definitely, really thankful for Vic Screen, as well as Creative Vic for putting everything on. I mean, it's a week. It's definitely a week. It's a week that goes for almost 2 weeks and feels like more. But yeah, it's amazing. And, internationally renowned, everyone I've spoken to from outside of Melbourne and inside as well has just said how much they love this week. I'd love to thank our sponsors, our good friends at House every time. I'd love to thank our very smart friends at 2 Point. They're very good people. I'd like to thank our very silly friends at Worm Club. Enough said. I'd like to thank our trendy friends at Beethoven Dinosaur, and our incredibly intelligent and magical friends at Shape Shop, as well as our old family friends at League of Geeks. You're all a really great scene, and you help us out, and we wouldn't be doing this without you. We wouldn't do this. We do this for you as well as with you. I'd also like to take the spot to thank my family for flying over and looking after my baby, as well as helping us make cabinets when we had very, very little time. My parents and my in-laws are phenomenal, and I am indebted as much as I am to Katie, my wife, most above everything else. Like, if you look at those cabinets, they were... It's her, all right, trust me. I made a box, she filled it with magic. as well as the developers for those cabinets as well. Like, they're all old SK family, and yeah, you know who you are and you know how much I love you. So yeah, I'd also real quick like to say thanks to Tim Starana, our artist, and Warwick McLean, our musician, and I think I'm running out of and MCA for doing DJing later on, but we'll talk about the after party later. Thanks. So yeah, thanks again. Huge round of applause for everyone involved and just here in general. Thank yourselves. Okay, now stop. Yeah. All right, I'd like to introduce Ali McLean Hennessy to talk about Mystiques.
Hello. Wow, amazing presentation so far. I think it's so clear when artists are making work that's truly reflective of who they are in their soul, which leads me to my presentation today. I want to tell you about the philosophy and the themes behind our game, Mystiques. So I'm Ali, I'm the game director of Mystiques, which is a haunted antiquing game about the 4 worst bitches you ever met. Jem, Aspen, Winnie, and Barb, they run a failing antique store. Things are not going well for them financially when Jem cooks up a new business strategy, developing psychic powers. In Mystiques, you'll explore beautiful homes of the recently deceased. You'll rummage through their stuff and you will commune with their spirits in order to locate their most treasured earthly possessions. And then you will sell them for unconscionable profits in your shop. There's a lot I could tell you about this game. I could tell you about the detective-style gameplay, the deduction and exploration. I could tell you about the shop decoration and customization systems that allow you to create your own antique store that's perfectly suited to your aesthetic. I could tell you about the hundreds of hours we have already spent researching real antiques because we are so scared of the antiquing girlies on TikTok coming for our throats. But this is not the time for any of that. Tonight, I want to talk to you about what's at the heart of our game and the core pillar of our story, and that is insufferable women. Yeah! To do this, I'm going to use a mechanic from our game. I'm going to perform a tarot reading on this entire room. If you reach under your chair, literally, you will find a tarot card. When you have your card, I want you to do 2 things. The first thing, I want you to take it personally. The second thing, when you see your card on screen, I want you to clap. And don't worry, there is no audience participation. I'm not going to call on you. Just sometimes the spirits need some help to find you. So when you see your card up here, please clap. In Mystiques, before you load up your van and head to a job to hunt for antiques, you'll receive a tarot reading that provides you with some cosmic direction, some clues for what you should be open to receiving from the universe as you move through your day. So I'm going to ask the universe to share some wisdom with me tonight in my job to help me explain to this esteemed audience what it is to be an insufferable woman. We will now begin our reading. Cosmic Slay. Refusing to take your jacket off because it ruins the look. If you got one of these cards, congratulations, you are a fashion girly. Fundamental to the experience of being an insufferable woman is serving looks. And I don't mean being attractive, don't misunderstand me. I mean arriving whether people like it or not. In Mystiques, fashion is a key that unlocks access to parts of the world. Much like in real life, fashion is not just a tool for self-expression, it's also a mechanism for connection with other people. Characters in our game will respond differently to you depending on how you present yourself to them. So you'll collect fashion items along your journey through the world of Mystiques to stock your wardrobe with a fit for any occasion. Whether you are dressing to impress the spirit of a deceased 1970s record producer or sneaking into a masked ball to deliver a message from a dead loved one, just as you need to make strategic choices about what kind of antique identification gear to bring with you on a job, you also need to invest time in crafting a look that sends a message. We will now continue with our reading. Quitting social media. Reading Wikipedia at 3 a.m. Figuring out if you live in a simulation real quick before bed. Another key to insufferableness is the acquisition of cursed knowledge. I want you to picture in your mind's eye the most gloriously insufferable person you know. I'm right in front of you. I would bet my life that person has higher than average knowledge of a particular interest area. This could be Taylor Swift's back catalogue, or it could be the history of the magnifying glass, for example. In Mystiques, the women around Gem act like light through a magnifying glass, intensifying her power to find the most valuable antiques in a space. As a player, you influence the knowledge that surrounds Gem in two ways. Number one, you choose which girlie you want to bring with you on a job. So you need to anticipate the expertise you might need on hand. For example, if you are going to a location that is a restored church, maybe you want to bring someone who is an expert on stained glass, or maybe you want to bring someone who is an expert on reading stones, the predecessors of the magnifying glass, which were used by far-sighted monks as early as the 11th century. Secondly, you can expand the knowledge of the group using the rare books library that's in the antique store. So whoever you don't bring with you, they can hang back and they can skill up on any particular topics of interest. We will now continue our reading. Waiting for your turn to talk instead of listening. Saying ha 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 when you're not really laughing. External validation. If you got one of these cards, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're a bad friend. I'm sorry. Good news, key to being an insufferable woman is kind of being a bad friend. In Mystiques, friendship is a huge part of what propels our story. Gem's suspiciously fast acquisition of psychic powers and meteoric capitalist success puts a strain on her close friendships with the other women at the shop and threatens to destroy her whole life. Just as you explore the homes of the recently deceased to find their valuables, as a player in Mystiques, you'll also explore the complex dynamics of a group of friends just trying to survive capitalism, as well as the breaking down of the barrier between the living and the dead. Very relatable. We will now continue our reading. I'm really sorry if you got this card. This card is the urge to play The Sims for a week. This is a very dark card. It would be irresponsible of me not to acknowledge that part of being an insufferable woman is being in your flop era. Just taking massive L's, just eating shit, and just refusing to do any inner work about it. And instead, constructing a false reality where you're actually killing it. You're killing it. Complete denial of reality is the basis of the Mystiques paranormal lore. As a player in Mystiques, you take on the role of detective, not just in sniffing out antiques, but also in deconstructing the false reality that Gem, our protagonist, is building for you. Have you ever caught up with a friend who you haven't seen in a while? And you know them pretty well, so you can tell that maybe what they're telling you about how everything is so great and everything is amazing and they're doing better than ever is possibly not true. And it's not so much about lying to you really as it is about lying to themselves. That's kind of what playing this game is like. Throughout the game, Gem will experience psychic visions where we can enter her mind and commune with the dead. These visions allow you to see an unfiltered view of Gem's inner life. Her fears, her insecurities, her desires, they're all part of the grander mystery you're solving of why is she like this? Where does her power come from? What makes Gem, Gem? And why are we like this? Sometimes being an insufferable woman is the only option. Sometimes you have to give a talk about your game, and so you construct an elaborate premise to make people clap for your art. And that's just what you have to do to survive. I want to live my life in a vibrant, obnoxious, indulgent way. I want to make games that reflect the wonderful, batshit women in my life, in all of their glory, their selfishness, their vanity, their obsessions. These are essential parts of their humanity, and I love this about them. I wouldn't want to sand down their edges. Catch me crying in a museum about women. If you'll allow me one final indulgence, I'd like to do a reading for myself. It's clear that the spirit is strong in the room tonight, and I'd like to ask it what's in my future. Oh, this card says, Mystiques gets funded and in releasing reverses climate change and brings about world peace. That rules. Thank you so much. Go and be insufferable.
Apparently, I am Cosmic Slay. Next up, we have Jessie Scott talking about video shop algorithm.
Hello, my name's Jessie Scott. You won't know me from anything because I'm not a game developer. I'm a video artist, a filmmaker, and a PhD candidate at RMIT. For the last 8 years, I've been immersed in a project about video shops, which some of you might remember. What they were, how they worked, and specifically how artists used them as sources of material and inspiration for their own work. This work eventually became the basis of my PhD research, but back in 2015, I had just begun feeling my way around the topic by interviewing artists who I knew about their experiences of video shops. My friend, the artist Emil Zeal, spoke at length about the many video shops and lending libraries he had used over the course of his life, how they aided his practice as a VJ, and finding samples to mix, and how they allowed him to educate himself about film, experimental art, and moving image. He also talked about how he navigated the post-video shop world now, finding material on algorithm-driven platforms. And this.
And maybe there's an opportunity for an algorithm for chaos, like a video shop algorithm that says, you like this, you definitely won't like that. And maybe there's an opportunity for algorithms to open up from just speed and efficiency towards like an anti-normativity algorithm to kind of break things open.
Emil's simple concept, a video shop algorithm, struck a light in my brain as to what was missing from contemporary streaming, basically a culture. And what makes a culture is people. People coming together in some capacity and talking to each other, exchanging ideas, tastes and knowledges, just like today. Video shops had this in spades, but something like Netflix has never been able to reproduce it. Now, I'm not a coder. I can't actually write an algorithm for chaos, and resurrecting the video store as a business model feels a little bit beyond my means. So I thought about how I could resurrect the culture of video shops, the experience of them instead, and essentially make a fake algorithm that could evoke the dynamics of discovery that video shops once embodied. Being a visual artist, initially I saw this as a gallery-based project where people would come and contribute to like a wall drawing with their memories and thoughts about video shops. It would look a bit like an algorithm, but be more of a group brainstorm. The more research and interviews I did, though, the more I drifted from this idea. I began to realise how much playfulness and performativity had been a huge part of maintaining these cultures. I learned, for example, about the IMDb game, where video shop clerks would grab a title off the shelf and then as quickly as possible try to connect them using IMDb, a kind of 6 degrees of separation for video shop clerks. This really sparked my imagination, and I decided to lean into that playfulness and turn it into an actual game. Something people would enjoy and be compelled to play, but also hopefully come away from it remembering what they had loved about video shops or experiencing some of that for the first time. So what I ended up with is Video Shop Algorithm, which is a party game for between 4 and 8 players. It's collaborative, it's card-based and turn-taking, and it currently exists in 3 forms. A totally online version, which is playable through video apps like Zoom, a downloadable print and play version that you can combine with some of the elements online, and the limited edition physical version, which is what's on the screen at the moment, consisting of a game booklet, a deck of cards, and a set of stickers, which is enough for one playing. The goal of Video Shop Algorithm is to revive the playful performance of film culture, memory and knowledge that once was a common experience in video shops, especially one staffed and frequented by students, artists, filmmakers and academics, of which Melbourne once had a thriving ecosystem. Each player brings a video to the game, forming a temporary library of films on DVD or VHS, and then via a set of connection cards, you take it in turns to link these films on the board, in a kind of communal mind map of shared film knowledge. Connection cards include constraints such as, if you like that, you might also like this, and this made me think of, which determine how films can be connected. Players are rewarded for increasing the number and density of connections on the map, externalising and building on each individual's memories and knowledge using only the VHS and DVD cases, so you cannot use your phone. As a group, you assemble this little library of film covers and then take it in turns to try to connect them to each other on the map, as well as adding in other titles. As a creative outcome of this research, one of the things I really wanted to explore was the way video shops were these spaces that produced a new kind of film culture, one that was highly literate but not highfalutin, conversational rather than academic, and made such a huge variety of material suddenly available to artists and non-artists alike that had not been available before. It's kind of hard to imagine now, I think. I'm also really interested in the idea of the distributable art object, one that, like VHS tapes or DVDs, can accumulate, circulate and recirculate and be available to be rediscovered and re-entered into the cultural conversation. From that perspective, I knew I wanted Video Shop Algorithm to be a physical game. However, like many others, I hadn't anticipated what COVID would do to our conceptions of being together in space and also to our ideas of accessibility. So I also developed a version that's totally playable online. I commissioned a graphic designer, Hope Lumsden Barry, and a web developer and a coder. And we made this website to host the game with its rules, its instructions, some widgets, all in one sort of coherent package. Through a developmental playtesting phase amongst a variety of groups, so fellow artists, family and friends, students, as well as the general public through ACMI's Audience Lab and through the work in progress ACMI X Night, feedback was gathered which helped refine the rules and the mechanics of the game. Through all of this, I just want you to see one of the widgets, which I'm very proud of. No, I'll just keep going. Through all of this research and development, I also came into contact with the idea of the PDF print and play, the ethos of which really appealed to me, a simple file format that's available, accessible, and above all flexible. Cards, stickers, and a game booklet are all included, as well as a simple text file to explain how they all fit together. Now, I've tested the rules to maximise the salience of gameplay. However, I really want players to take ownership of this game, to change and adapt the rules to suit different situations, play different versions, make it better for them. From multiple rounds of play testing, I've already seen that what feels like a lack of structure and direction for some players can feel like a straitjacket for others. So, like the video shop clerks whiling away the dead hours on the floor with the IMDb game, I want Video Shop Algorithm to be something you can play spontaneously without too much preparation or mucking around. And this, for me, is the spirit of the print and play PDF. It always feels like a work in progress, and it's not precious. Finally, to me, almost the most fun part of Video Shop Algorithm is actually after the game is over. And what you have left is this record of the conversations, fights, anecdotes, and knowledges that have been shared. And these look completely different depending on who has played the game and how they've played the game. But each time they're a map that you can retrace later to chase down those connections and recommendations that were made. They make tangible something that was always intangible but nonetheless real. They're a metaphor for the web of memory that each and every video shop held in its own community, spinning out from the objects themselves and forging new connections and new cultures. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me here.
Who's ready for something creepy? Okay, next up we've got Cain Madox talking about Proximate.
Hi, my name is Cain, and I am afraid. This is my first time speaking in front of so many people, so I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes disassociating, if that's okay with you. On that note, today I'm going to be talking about horror. I'll be speaking about a problem that I've had with text-based horror games for a while now, and how my own project, Proximate, was an answer to that. A bit about me first. I'm a Melbourne-based game developer who spent 7 years working in tech before I realized that I hate having money. So I got into video games instead. My past 2 games were Waste Eater, which is a text-based game about a dying mutant in a solar punk world, and a trans man's grinder DMs, which is exactly what it sounds like. So for me, there's 2 types of horror in games. There's a cold, quiet type of horror. It's a type that wraps its frozen fingers around your throat, never letting go, but never squeezing quite hard enough to give you the catharsis of an end. It's a type of horror that leans in close to your ear and whispers, "There's something behind you," but never lets you turn around. And then there's the "oh shit, oh fuck, it's coming to get me, please God help" type of horror. For the most part, text-based games live in this first category. Actually, skip the slide, this one, oh, whatever. For the first part, text-based games live in the first category. I've never played a text-based game that scared me in quite the same way that Amnesia or Darkwood did, and I want to change that. But if you're the type of person who's at an experimental art games festival, then you're probably wondering, why would you want to defile the sacred, beautiful medium of text-based games with this? And my answer to that is that nothing is sacred, and I will take joy in ruining everything you love. So what is it about text-based games that makes it so hard for them to do this? My first impulse was to blame graphical fidelity. Surely a game with better graphics is freakier, yeah? But World of Horror is a beautifully illustrated text-based game, but nothing in it made me feel quite as bad as this motherfucker in Faith Unholy Trinity. So it's not graphics. Then I started thinking, maybe for a game to be terrifying, you have to have a sense of body, you have to have an avatar. In most 2D games, you have a sprite that can be attacked, and in FPS games, you have an implied body behind the camera. Maybe the problem with most text-based horror games is that text-based games just don't have as much of a sense of body. But take, for example, Cataclysm: Dark Days Ahead. It's a turn-based survival horror game where you move your player avatar on a map each turn while gathering supplies and fighting zombies. Cataclysm is a turn-based game with text and an avatar, but still, nothing in Cataclysm made me feel quite the same way as this scene in Iron Lung. The answer that I finally landed on is this. It's because every single text-based game has this one awful, awful feature. My greatest enemy, the continue button. Almost every single text-based game requires you to manually progress time. Text-based games work in discrete time, while most other games work in continuous time. This matters because terror isn't just about not knowing what's going to happen next, it's about not knowing when it's going to happen next. Walking down a dark hallway, not knowing when something is going to grab you, is a lot more terrifying than having to press the continue button for the monster to get you. When you take away the player's control over time, you make them powerless, and that's what terror is about. So how do you make a text-based game work in continuous time? There's probably a lot of different ways, but I figured out a mechanic that I haven't seen anywhere else before, and I would like to talk to you all about how it works. So my current project, Proximate, is set in a somewhat optimistic future where worker rights revolutions have spread across India and Southeast Asia. So now companies across the globe have lost their supply of cheap, exploitable workers. In response to this, a Melbourne-based biotech startup was given billions of dollars in investor funding to attempt to reanimate corpses to create an endless supply of cheap workers. But after about a year of disappointing results, the startup suddenly cut all contact with their investors. You, the player, have been sent in by one of the investment firms to figure out what happened in this lab. The main hook of the game, though, is that the firm has also coerced you into doing beta testing for one of their other investment projects, a buggy AI visor that's constantly fighting against you. So the game itself is set in top-down 2D, but the player themselves only ever sees text. They're wearing a visor that converts the environment into a text-based format. So, for example, you could be looking at an airlock, and all you're going to see is the word airlock, with a distance indicator to help you judge how far away from it you are. Navigation is done entirely with a mouse and keyboard, just like in any other top-down 2D game, but all the player ever sees is text. With this design, I get all the advantages of making a text-based game. Creating new objects in the environment is as simple as just plopping down an ugly square on my map. I don't have to do any art or 3D modeling, but I'm still able to keep the terror potential that comes with making a continuous time game. One of the things that I love most about text-based horror is that text is inherently an ambiguous medium that allows the player to create the horror in their own mind. One of Proximate's strong points is that the player visor is grotesquely unreliable, hilariously unreliable even at some points. So, for example, you could be looking at the dismembered corpse of one of the people who used to work at the laboratory, and all the visor will show you is this. Or you could be in the middle of a chase scene. There could be something actively behind you, just about to grab you, and the visor will start doing this. The main thing that I want to achieve with Proximate is that when the player walks through the lab, they should never feel safe. You learn early on in the game that you're not alone. There's something else in here with you, and it hates you. It could be lurking around any corner, anywhere, anywhen, and there's no continue button between it and you. If you want to check out a short demo, you can look up Proximate on itch.io. And if you check out my itch profile, you can find a link to my Mastodon or my mailing list, where you can stay up to date on updates and new devlogs. Or if you would like to support development, you can subscribe to my Patreon. Please give me money, I am unemployed. Thank you.
So, now I get to do my little spiel. So, aside from Parallels this year, Freeplay has a few other things ongoing at the moment and coming up soon that I would like to talk to you about. So the first one is, as Louie said earlier, we currently have a small exhibit going in the ACMI Lightwell, so the entryway basically when you come into the museum, of 5 cabinets that have been made by Louie and Katie. They're really beautiful and they are in the ACMI Lightwell until the end of Games Week. So if you don't get the chance tonight, come back over the weekend, take a look at them. They're really delightful. There's one full of sea creatures with googly eyes, showing Fish Market, Grace Bruckner's game from a few years ago. They're all really charming. Louie and Katie really outdid themselves with setting that up. And since Louie got to thank me before, I'd like to say thank you, Louie. You did an amazing job with that and with everything else that you've been handling with co-direction. And it's been great sorting this out and everything else Freeplay related out with you since we came on board a few months ago. Yay! The other thing that you can do at ACMI is we have a few bits of Parallels paraphernalia available in the gift shop. So you can get t-shirts with a version of the key art on them. They're really wonderful. There's also a poster of the key art in full color with all of the wonderful little creatures that Tim Stariano has drawn for us on it. If you don't manage to get them at ACMI over the next few days, they're also going to be available at Paper House over in Thornbury, so you can go and check them out there too. And just drop by Paper House anyway, they're great. Last thing that I wanted to cover off at the moment is the Freeplay Awards. Yeah! Let me check my notes so I give you the correct dates on things. So the Freeplay Awards are running soon. The entries are open at the moment. For the first time in a year and a half, it's been a little bit of a gap between them. So if you have released a game between the 26th of April 2021 and the 22nd of September 2023, we want to hear about it. So go onto the Freeplay website, take a look at the award submissions, and show us what you've got. The submissions close on the 22nd of October, and then we'll be hosting. Okay, thanks, Tiara. Tiara's been coordinating the awards. Shout out to Tiara also. 25th of October. Get your games in by then, and then February we'll be hosting the awards night and seeing who's won. So that is going to be great. Now, with all of that business covered off, we're going to get back to the speakers. So next up, over from Sydney, we have Fuzzy Ghost.
Hi everyone, I'm Scott.
And I'm Pete, and we are Fuzzy Ghost. We are a queer game dev duo from unceded Gadigal land, Sydney.
Yeah, and we're here tonight to talk about our approach to tone while making a serious game with lots of political
issues.
stuff in. That's the name of our talk.
Welcome to Making a Hellmouth a Home.
So we've our approach is very much a response to a lot of serious media that we experienced in the past few years, and we're talking about it, and a lot of them were kind of miserable in many ways, like uniform in tone. We felt often quite drab, as Pete would say.
I have no time for drab.
Yes, so we wanted to push back against that and kind of getting away from that notion that misery makes meaning or something like that. We felt was emanating from a lot of work. So yes, this is what we're working on now.
Janet de Mornay is a slumlord and a witch.
Yes. It's a game about, it's comedy horror set in a rental property or a queer share house being haunted by your landlord, terrorized.
It is a house that actually exists in Sydney, in Chippendale, that we lived in for much too long.
Very, very long time. Lots of horror, but lots of good stuff as well, which is part of what we want to talk about. But one of the influences, modern influences that we go to when we're talking about this kind of variety of tone is the work of Bong Joon-ho, Parasite, The Host, things like that. Just a really good combination of comedy, horror, thriller, all these different things, and also just fun stuff like slapstick. Fun is very much a word that we use all the time, and blends those things with overt and subtle politics as well.
Without ever really undermining, like there's this idea, I think, that having joy or having slapstick or having silliness will somehow undermine the issue or the message or what they're talking about. And I think Bong Joon-ho does such a fabulous job of illustrating that that is not how it works.
Yeah, so talking more on those things, we're watching kind of classic cinema, which we love. So we went back and watched things from the 30s, you know, a time pre-McCarthyism, a lot of socialists working in Hollywood. So very overt political issues, but again, really fun. Musicals, high kicks, romance, drama, thriller, all those things together.
Like one of my favorite films ever is Stage Door. You've got all of these like S-tier stars on stage, and in the film they're like ripping each other to shreds in these like witty, fast everything, and then you've got the conversations they're having about like Weinstein adjacent, what women have to deal with to be on the stage in the 30s in post-Depression America. It's incredible.
Yeah, so it feels very relevant and yeah, very, very, there's no subtlety like we often say when we're making this, but like our
subtlety is overrated.
Yeah. So yeah, and just a couple more references and then we'll show you a little clip. So in terms of queer family, Beetlejuice and Poltergeist, and found family, they were very much influences for us. And we're just going to show you one particular clip from Poltergeist which captures a lot.
Yeah, I think this is a scene that after we rewatched Poltergeist fairly recently, we just keep coming back to because it captures this idea of like rounded. Anyway, I'll get onto that later. Poltergeist, some setup for those who don't know where this scene takes place in the film. Our family has just moved into a new suburban house. It's haunted. And their youngest daughter, Carol Ann, has been taken by the ghosts. And this scene takes place weeks or months after their daughter is taken, and they just have to live their lives in this house and just hoping that one day she is returned to them.
Hello? Carol Ann?
I fucking love that scene. It's just like, it starts where she's doing the laundry. It is boring, and it goes across to this quiet, and then it's shocking, and then it's kind of funny, and then it's really fucking tragic, and you feel so bad for her, but you did just laugh.
Yeah, and another thing that really inspired us from watching that and stayed with us is this normalization of a horrible and supernatural situation in our game. The house is barely held together by magic. It's falling apart as you play. So we wanted that experience of things getting worse and you know, how much do you put up with, how much do you make fun as we do, you know, going around, you always got to hear a eventual horror story. When is it not funny, and you know, things like that. But we also wanted to bring it back to the fun, we wanted to have the joys of a queer share house and a share house, a found family, and all those things.
Because while all this, like this is an illustration of, like our game is an illustration very much talking about the horrific power imbalance that our current system has with renters and landlords. But we all know the misery. I mean, if you're a renter, you know the misery. You don't need me to tell you. But we also have no choice but to make our homes in these scenarios. And we do make beautiful, warm, loving homes with families in these scenarios. And this is...
I think for us, to make a point and to get across to somebody, and I think what we feel is more effective is when you have this range of feeling and emotion and tone, rather than a build-up where someone's happy and then you know that they're just happy, so then the next scene they can be made miserable again.
Misery porn.
Yeah. So it really is, because politics isn't outside the house, it's not abstract, you know, it's in the house. We live with it every single day through misery and joy and absurdity and stupidity and all of these things.
People keep living. We all keep living through all of this horrific shit. politics is very human, which also means that politics
is all that stuff, and that's really what we're trying to bring into our game. And now that we've done that,
to wrap up, we have a little secret. I'm gonna consider this a private viewing, so maybe don't tell anybody that you've seen this because we're not meant to show it yet.
not for a week.
Not for a week or something.
Yeah.
But here's a sneaky debut. Here's our gay-boo. Here is our debut gameplay trailer. I hope you enjoy it.
Landline? Where the hell is it coming from? Hello?
Was it my hat, Andrew? Is that why you didn't let me in today? Into my house?
No, it's just,
My husband and I own a small private apiary in Coringaches, and I just thought I'd stop by to see some of my tenants, and I shouldn't have worn the hat.
No, it's okay. I just wanted everything to be perfect for the inspection, and...
So you let me in next time?
I mean, we have
You let me in?
But yeah, of course.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, they let me in. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
Thank you very much for having us. It's fucking magic being here.
Thank you.
Cheers, that was good. That was good. So to continue the duo theme, I'd like to welcome Billy and Chloe from Groundbird.
Okay, funny remote. Hello, beautiful people. Okay. Let me get up me notes.
You got your clicky remote?
Yep.
Oh,
All right.
you're set.
So, before we begin, I would just like to quickly acknowledge that we are living, working, and presenting tonight from the stolen lands of the people of the Kulin Nation. We recognize that sovereignty was never ceded, and that the violence of the colonial project against First Nations people is still ongoing. So, take it away, Chloe.
Now, before we get going...
Remote's not working? There we go.
Oh, this is a disaster. What are we going to do about your remote?
We're good now.
Okay, well, we're good to go. Well, before we begin, I just want everyone to kind of take a moment to sit back, have a look around, have a look at the person sitting next to you, and just realize what a freak they are. We live in a really fucking strange world. Everything's really weird. Speaking of weird, my name is Chloe. I'm scared of bright lights.
I'm Billy. I've eaten a leaf. And alongside our other freaks, we've been working on games that draw on the absurdity of everyday lives to make worlds full of weird guys and whimsy. This talk is going to be something of an oral history of our work thus far, a celebration of the fact that we've done it 2 and a bit times without killing each other, and maybe there'll be a takeaway or 2 along the way. So without further ado, let's touch on our Mikeys. Whoop, there we go.
Whoa! Space Mikey Officer, also known as Cosmic Commute, because it turns out that naming games is actually really hard, was the first adventure that our funny little team went on. Now, it's a game that was built during COVID, so we were a little loopy to begin with. But the Booty Boys set off into the great unknown on a mission to recreate the average commute home on a train in Melbourne. You are allowed to judge the team name. We were meant to be pirate-themed.
Somehow we spent 4 times as long coming up with the team name as we did the game idea. We did a whole elimination bracket, and that's the best we could do.
It was a disaster, basically. So I just want you to take a brief moment just to think about the types of people that you see on a train in Melbourne.
Yeah, so the average commute is full of really iconic types of guy. You've got like groups of teenagers blasting triplet rhythms on their Louie booms, biblically accurate angels, and detached PSOs who can't talk to you like a human being for fear it might trigger empathy in them. I think the average train commute, you know, it's not the most interesting thing we do with our days, but it's something that we all do, and so a train carriage is kind of this beautiful smorgasbord of the human experience, a real slice of it all.
Considering that Space Mikey was an ode to just the ugliness and the beauty of half a roast chicken sitting on a train, I reckon we did a pretty good job. I don't know. The game is just built to remind us that we should really start enjoying the game of I need to take the bins out without seeing my neighbour. Just continue barking at the postman, and most importantly, continue to avoid the ticket inspectors. Just don't want to see them at all, basically. So now that we've got a taste for whatever the hell's going on here, do you want to head to the beach, Billy?
I think I do. So, Bell's Beach is a silly platformer we worked on, where fishing is taken to its illogical extreme. It sort of starts at the ocean and then only gets more unhinged from there. You're fishing in things like deep fryers, laptop wallpapers, and other suitably abstract and ridiculous things. Let's see if that will freaking work, mate. There you go. Love that. Yeah. So after Cosmic Commute, we sort of wanted to make something a little bit more gamey, but we were still very fixated on the idea of a world full of characters and full of vibes. So naturally, the thing we decided to do was make Dark Souls.
Unfortunately, we did not end up making Dark Souls because Jin was terrified of it, as you can see. But we did get some core foundations that we wanted to build upon. Curiosity, legacies, our own really just awful breed of humour, and most importantly, that sense of a mundane fantasy that we realised that we just love hanging on to. So we wanted something every day. Just typical jobs around the house was a little too boring, so step up from that. What do you get? You get bird watching. This is the ground bird that inspired it all. It's a very rare type of bird.
Yeah, the bird watching idea was not popular, and I was relentlessly bullied for it.
You weren't bullied.
And nobody understood that we were actually making a golf game, not a fishing game.
Golf is so lame. Not a fan of golf, so fishing's a little better.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
So Bell's Beach took most of its inspiration from our memories of visiting and living on the Great Ocean Road. In the early days, we were staying up in Call on Google Street View, scrutinizing that like fake Santorini arse style of fish and chip shops, scrutinizing the floor tile patterns so we could replicate them perfectly, and remembering that Safeway was what that used to be called. Love looking at 2008 circa photos around my house, it's crazy. Yeah, coincidentally, nobody on the team's been on Bell's Beach for more than 10 minutes, but I promise you we're no slouch when it comes to beach.
Riley's job is just beach,
And we
as
love
you
him
can
for
see.
it. And we love him for it.
Now, we needed a cast of some funny little people to populate the world. I am very sad to report that we did have to desexify Grandpa Jerry. Peace was restored, but at what cost? Very upset. But making games with such a consistent team is just amazing because you can create some just really strange links to characters.
And why do we make games if not to gratuitously reference all our old blorbos?
Yeah. Our kangaroo mum from Bell's Beach has, well, look, I like to say it's a strained relationship with the guy on the train. 16, our first child up there, is 3 years old now. They've had a long life of sitting, eating, and standing. But all in all, Bell's Beach is just a wonderful little cesspool of our little guys.
So, after multiple projects born from searching the depths of our souls for things both sweet and strange, where is there to go? So, we intended initially for Bell's Beach to be a lot more weird and monstery than it ultimately ended up being. I was pretty obsessed with specifically the weird, surreal plastic suburbia of movies like Speed Racer and Spy Kids and Cat in the Hat. The game ultimately ended up being a lot more normal and delightful and, shall we say, wholesome. And you know, that's good, but we had all this energy left and nowhere for it to go.
Yeah, look, we're just really tired of being nice. It's just time to go bonkers, I think.
Time to go apeshit. So,
Yeah, whoa.
our new project follows a group of university students at a campus somewhere between this world and the next, toiling under the weight of expectation, atomization, and the literal eldritch bureaucracy that keeps it all going.
So I'm very, very proud to report that cringe culture is dead. We're going to be embracing our Tumblr years for this one. I don't think the sexy men actually get enough love, so I think we should give them some more. We've also got some funny little guys here called Wooblies. Original characters come to life, if you would. They are an open species. Unless you want one with a tail, then it's getting a bit pricey.
So to get real for a sec, at this sort of same as the rest of our projects, we want to tell a story about our lives and also of being a young person these days, of never really getting the chance to be starry-eyed about the world we're inheriting through climate change and corporate greed and certain global health disasters, but doing our best to find agency and self-actualization and love in spite of it all.
Oh, and we might smash a window along the way.
With the power of friendship.
We hope.
So, ultimately, at the end of the day, we try to remember that our world is strange and beautiful and fucked up and boring and so exciting. Everything's a painting and everyone's a joke. I think it's easy to get wrapped up in established formulas and aesthetics, especially in games, but if you slow down a little bit, you might realize that the game was right in front of you. Thank you. Join the union. Join the union.
Thank you, and yes, join unions. That's all right. You just Brophy. You're the Brophy. Actually, I'd like to introduce Brophy while I'm here because that would be what I'm up here to do. Andrew Brophy has joined us again.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Parallels. Epic. I thought I was going to go first. As you may have, don't need that. As you may have just heard, my name is Andy, and I'm working on a video game called Knuckle Sandwich. Parallels is always my Games Week highlight, so I'm absolutely stoked to actually be here in person to speak at it. So years ago, when I first started messing around with this project, it was actually shown at one of the first Parallels. The thing is, I didn't attend it in person. I had to send in a video presentation. And unless I'm mistaken, there was no recording of that event, so I personally consider it lost media. All I'm saying is, I'm glad we have the chance tonight to right some wrongs. It's really threatening. I read that, I was like, wait a second. Tone is off. Anyway, I know many people here in the audience, and I know many of you are familiar with this game. The thing is, though, I am extremely humble, so I'm not going to assume that goes for everyone here. I put together a really, really quick presentation just so I can catch everyone up on the project. We're all on the same page. You all know what I'm talking about. All right. PowerPoint starts. Don't say that part. The year was 1993. No one knew it back then, but a child had just been born who would go... A child had just been born who was going to go on to create the greatest Australian JRPG, one complete with 100 microgames seamlessly blended into the turn-based combat, each with 4 difficulty settings and unique artwork specific to each character that uses them. A video game with a small-town setting, a cast of eccentric characters, and a plot with charm, and a focus on humor. That child was me. 1994. Nothing relevant to the game happened this year. I just wanted to show everyone a really cute photo of me on my first birthday. Hell yeah. How are we going for time, by the way? I got 28 more of these to go. I'll skip ahead. 19. Actually, just when I turned 19. Why is no one saying "oh" to this one? So, At this point, I just moved out of home and I started getting involved in the games community here in Melbourne. I've been making games as a hobby for a few years now, and I gained a little bit of a following online. I knew at this point I wanted to make a big game, but I didn't exactly know what. I'd made a few dozen small games, but I wasn't really satisfied with that anymore. Now, if you ask any established game developer how to get started on making a big game, they'll likely give you one key piece of advice. Make a small game, and then you can make a big game. If you need a visualization, it looks a little something like this. I'll leave this up for a few seconds if anyone needs to take a photo for their notes. Anyway, I was in my early 20s, and I'd been through the small game to big game pipeline. I thought I was ready. I eventually ended up using an unfinished Flash game called Knuckle Sandwich as a base for the big game. I had the setup ready to go, and it already had plenty of character, and it just needed to be seriously fleshed out. It wasn't even an RPG in the beginning, so I took my time. I really wanted to figure out what it is I actually wanted to say with it. That's this year. I used to be really ashamed. I used to be really ashamed that it had been taking me so long to get this project going. Even with the amount of ideas I scrapped along the way, it still became a huge game. No one warned me about the huge game. We were in uncharted territory. Can anyone make heads or tails of this? Really, it's not rhetorical. The thing is, I only wanted to make something big if it was going to be remarkable in some way. So much of this project's development time had been me trying to figure out what that actually means. It takes a really long time to do that, and that's okay. I don't think I'd recommend anyone else takes this path, though. Even if it isn't for everyone, I still think I've done it. I think this is one of the best video games I've ever played. Thank you. There's another thing.
Well, that brings us to the end of Parallels 2023.
So, last bit of housekeeping before we go. We have a after party is a pretty grandiose term, but we have the upstairs at the Crafty Squire booked. You will need a password to get in. The password is sad karaoke. If anyone ever wondered what SK stood for, you'll find out. And I want to also shout out to the Melbourne Chiptune Academy boys for providing some tunes tonight. They'll be just whiling away and creating a vibe. I don't know what they do. I don't know. But I trust them, and that's the main thing. But yeah, thanks so much to everybody. Thanks so much to all the speakers. You've all been wonderful. We hope to, hopefully not have another update about Knuckle Sandwich next year. No, you're always welcome. We're very proud of you, Brophy. Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I guess, again, thank you so much for attending. I hope that you have enjoyed all of the wonderful presentations that we've had tonight. Again, a round of applause for the developers who have done such great work. You're all brilliant.
Yeah, the pub's open from 9. Well, it's open now anyway. It's a Squire. It never closes. But upstairs is open from 9. There's food there available till 9:30. It's all just, order at the bar, do what you want. But yeah, we hope to see you there. And if you, go see our little cabinets outside. If you don't catch them this week, they'll be in Sydney in a couple of weeks for South by. Yeah, that's right. That's the one. You got it. But yeah, thanks so much, and leave quietly.
And hopefully see many of you again at the awards in February. Yeah!